The morning was colder than it should have been, the kind of cold that creeps not just into the skin but into the bones. Ezrin walked barefoot across the stone courtyard, his hands bound loosely in front of him. A thin crowd had gathered, faces half hidden beneath cloaks, eyes full of a strange hunger. Above, gray clouds loomed like a heavy ceiling, pressing the world down into silence. Each step he took echoed sharply. He counted them without meaning to. 1, 2, 3. The guards flanked him, their armor dull and battered as if even they had lost the strength to care. Ezrin was not a monster, nor a saint. He was simply a man who had been caught standing in the wrong place, holding the wrong truths. And in this world, sometimes truth was the greatest crime of all. The gallows waited at the far end of the courtyard, an old structure, worn by time and by countless others who had walked this path before him. The noose hung limp, swaying gently even though there was no wind. It almost looked bored. He kept walking. 20 steps now. Each step heavier, as though the ground itself resisted him. The murmurs of the crowd blurred into a low hum, and somewhere a child cried before being quickly hushed. Ezrin thought of running once, long ago. But where could a man run when the whole world was a cage? At step 37, he began to notice it. The ground beneath his feet. It changed. The cobblestones no longer felt cold. They seemed to pulse with a strange warmth, as if something alive slumbered just below the surface. He blinked. Was he hallucinating? A trick of fear? No, he was certain. There, just ahead, the gallows shimmered. Only for a second, like heat above a flame. No one else seemed to notice. At step 40, the world grew quieter. The jeers of the crowd faded into nothingness. The guard's footsteps beside him no longer sounded real, like echoes from a memory he was about to forget. He reached the base of the platform. The executioner, a man with hollow eyes, waited with the noose in hand. Ezrin climbed the steps without being told. 1 step, 2, 3. Each wooden plank creaked beneath his weight, but the sound felt distant, detached, like it belonged to another time. At the top, he stood straight, facing the crowd. The executioner moved behind him, lifting the noose toward his neck. Ezrin took a breath, and then he stepped forward, his final footstep. But instead of meeting the rough wood of the platform, his foot found nothing. It sank downward, not into wood, but into light. The platform dissolved beneath him. The gallows, the courtyard, the crowd, all unraveled like threads torn from an ancient tapestry. He was falling, but not downwards. It was as if he fell through the fabric of reality itself. Colors he had no name for spun around him. Sounds like distant songs wrapped him in warmth. And when the spinning slowed, Ezrin found himself standing barefoot on a field of silver grass that stretched endlessly under a sky filled with unfamiliar stars. There was no pain, no fear, only a profound stillness, deeper than any silence he had ever known. Before him stood a figure cloaked in something that looked like both shadow and light. No face, no voice. Only a presence that filled the air with both sorrow and hope. "You took the final step," it said, not in sound but in meaning. "And it led you home." Ezrin tried to speak but found he didn't need to. Every question, every fear he had ever held, slipped from him like a worn coat shrugged from his shoulders. The burden was gone, the chains were gone, the judgment of men was gone. Only freedom remained, a freedom he had never tasted on earth. Ezrin smiled, a small real smile, the first in a lifetime. And with that final footstep, he walked into the light without fear. Ezrin landed in a strange world, a place suspended between life and death. It was clear now. This was not heaven nor hell. It was a threshold, a bridge that few souls ever crossed. The ground beneath him was made of a smooth, silvery stone that seemed to hum with every step he took. Above, the sky was filled with countless doors, massive, ancient, floating in the heavens, each one glowing faintly. As Ezrin walked forward, he saw that he was not alone. Figures stood silently along his path, They were other souls, condemned like him, each staring at one of the doors above, unable to move, trapped in their own indecision. Then, a voice, gentle but immense, spoke without sound directly into Ezran's mind. Only the one who walks without regret may pass. At that moment, Ezran understood. Every door above was a destiny that could have been his depending on the choices he had made in life. Some doors led to peace, others to endless wandering, some to rebirth, and some to oblivion. But Ezran kept walking forward. He refused to look back. As he crossed a narrow bridge of transparent glass, suspended over an endless abyss, strange visions surged around him. A battlefield where he had once fled instead of fighting for justice. A love he had abandoned out of fear. A promise he had broken in selfishness. Each vision tried to stop him, to drag him into guilt and despair. But Ezran pushed on, step after painful step. Ahead, a final gate emerged. A colossal archway, forged not from stone or metal, but from pure light and memory. On it was written in letters burning like stars, "This is the step beyond." Ezran, battered and exhausted but unbroken, stepped through the arch. Beyond the gate, Ezran found himself standing in a vast golden field under a sky without end. There was no more pain, no more fear, only a profound sense of completion. There, waiting for him, was a figure, not a god, not a judge, but himself, the man he could have been if he had lived without fear. Strong, compassionate, whole. The two Ezrans looked at each other, and for the first time he understood. The final footstep was never meant to be a walk to death. It was a return to the self he had lost through regret, bitterness, and fear. By facing everything he had been, and still choosing to move forward without clinging to guilt, Ezran had freed himself. He had crossed not into punishment, nor into reward, but into wholeness. The execution was merely the outer event. The true trial had always been internal. The world faded around him, not into nothingness, but into a brilliant light that seemed to sing of second chances. And then, in that final moment, Ezran smiled. He was not lost. He was finally home. Ezran's last journey wasn't truly toward death. It was toward redemption. In the end, he faced every mistake, every regret he had buried, and he made a choice to keep walking, even when guilt and fear tried to chain him to the past. In life, many of us carry invisible weights, regrets we refuse to face, roads we were too afraid to take, promises we left behind. And without realizing it, we stop moving forward. We become trapped not by destiny, but by our own unwillingness to let go. Ezran teaches us that our final step is not decided by the world, nor by others. It is decided by the courage to face ourselves honestly and choose to walk forward, even when it hurts.